For someone that's trying to build a good culture for their own team, what's a piece of advice that you could give to them?
Praise effort and praise decision making. Don't praise results.
All right, welcome back to the Sideline Spill. I'm Heidi.
This is Monica.
And I'm Sabrina.
And today we have a guest with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Josh Huget.
All right, he's going to talk to us about being assistant coach on our son's team, the Chaos 2013s. Welcome in, Josh.
Thank you.
Well, welcome in, Josh. We're super thankful that you decided to come and talk to us. Unlike the boys that we had last week that we had to bribe, we're thankful that you're here because you want to be here.
I'm sure Monica bribed him.
Maybe.
I'm sure he'd love some ice cream afterward.
There you go. I can be bribed with ice cream.
So I guess just start with your background, maybe playing when you were younger or coaching, either way.
Sure. So I guess I'll start by saying that I grew up playing soccer. Can't remember exactly when, just in grade school, playing rec soccer. Went through and played a bunch of different sports growing up: soccer, basketball, baseball, ultimate frisbee, track. So did all kinds of different sports growing up, and soccer was just one of the ones I was drawn to the most. So that's the one I got most involved with and put probably the most amount of time in, and just overall enjoyed the most.
Awesome. On that note, what really made you fall in love with soccer versus the other sports that you were into?
I would say there's quite a few pieces. So one obviously is the friendship, but also I don't know, out of all of the other sports, I feel like I just really liked the pace of the game. I like the strategy involved, and just how you can be as creative as possible, and just, I don't know, everything that you can do with it. So I'm drawn to a bunch of different aspects to it. And one of the things that I love seeing about our boys play it too is just how creative and how much fun they have with it.
Awesome.
So tell us about playing in school. What was your experience playing throughout your school years?
Playing in school was a lot of fun. It was something that I enjoyed. I did not make the team every year that I played. I would say I struggled some in my younger years, and then about high school is when I started getting a little more serious. So during like my middle school years is when I was playing rec mostly, which was fine. I had a good time. I had good coaches. And then in high school, right about 14 or so is when I would say things got a little bit more serious. I started taking the game more seriously and really, really clung to the competitive side of the game and really enjoyed it. So I would say that was the biggest shift for me.
What was it that caused that drive in you in high school?
I don't really know how to explain it other than, as a kid, even when you're not a kid, like you want to come out and play and have fun while you're doing sports, but it's almost like you take on a different personality a little bit. Like you kind of forget everything else and you step on the field and you take on this kind of more serious persona where it's like, I want to be the best that I can be. I don't want any striker to beat me. If I'm playing offense, I don't want any defender to stop me. Like you take on this a little bit of a different persona where you take it more seriously and try to be the best that you can be, not only for yourself, but for the team as well, because everybody on the team is doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you have a coach that stood out to you? And if so, what made them stand out?
I can remember my high school coaches. I wouldn't say there was, the one that I had for the majority of high school didn't stick out very much, but the year that we won our division championship, we had some really good coaches, and they were players on the team previously, so they weren't that much older than us, but they were exceptional players. And the big thing, and we'll kind of talk about this more later, but they transitioned well from players to coaches. They not only were good players themselves, so you respected them, but they knew how to coach. They knew where to push. They knew, the drills that we needed to do and everything. And that is not something that everybody has. So it's definitely something that stood out for me.
Do you think that having a younger coach, is that the reason why, instead of someone that's been out of playing the sport longer?
Not necessarily. I think I would. I think that as a player, you can pick up pretty easily if you have a coach that, they know what they're doing versus they're fumbling around and don't really know what's going on. So, and I can, kind of use this as an example now, like even when I'm coaching now, I don't have the same skill set now that I had when I was, playing back then. So sometimes it's hard for me to even demonstrate some of the drills because I know what I want to do, but I just can't get my body to do it. And so
The joys of getting older.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I guess to answer the question, no, I would say that the age really doesn't impact it for me. It really just, if the coach is a good coach and knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about and can make a good impact on me.
Yes. At least you still run like a cyborg.
Yes.
So if
So
you
we've
are
heard.
all listening last week's episode of the Sideline Spill, our boys were on there and my son referenced Josh, and this is Josh, as a cyborg. So that's where that reference came from.
I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah, I can still move pretty fast, but dribbling and everything else, man,
Yeah.
it's rough because I remember, what I used to be able to do, and it's just not there anymore. And that's fine. That's part of getting older.
Awesome.
So, Josh, what position did you play in high school?
Defense. I was always either center defense or left back. Those are the two positions that I primarily played. I don't even really know how I got started there, to be honest with you. So I just remember going out and performing well and ended up sticking with it. And that's where I developed the most. That's where I was the most impactful on the field. And it's what I enjoyed the most.
Do you have any funny stories that you can share with us from your high school experience?
Funny stories from high school. So we were at a game one time and we were beating a team pretty handedly. They didn't have any points against us and we were probably up, I don't know, by 2 or 3 points. And we got a corner kick kicked against us. I'm playing defense. And at the time I was number 9. And so they kicked the corner kick and I stuck my leg out to try and stop the ball, but I accidentally deflected it in and got an own goal. So, and that ended up being the only goal that they got the whole game.
Oh, no.
So the funny part about it is that their sideline started cheering for me. The team was the team and the fans were primarily Mexican, and so they were chanting "Nueve, Nueve, Nueve." And they were talking to me for the whole rest of the game. Hey, telling me I'm the best player on their team and all of this
my
stuff.
gosh.
And yeah, it was
That's
embarrassing.
so good.
And so, but then the nickname stuck. So for the
no.
rest of high school, I was referred to as Nueve after that game. So,
Okay, that's priceless. That is pretty funny.
Really good.
Okay, so how did you get into coaching?
So I think my first experience as a coach really was with this team that I can recall. So we had our very first team meeting and Athena was up at the front and she was talking to us about, about the team and about expectations. And let me take a step back. This was when the team first started. So 3 years ago, this was like the very first meeting ever that we had. So she was up there, up in front of all of the parents in our first parent meeting, talking to everybody. And at one point during the meeting, she made mention that she did not have an assistant coach and asked if anyone was interested. And no one raised their hand, including me. And so I kind of looked at Monica and, kind of like got the nod. And so afterwards, after the meeting was over, I approached Athena and I was like, hey, I grew up playing soccer. I have some soccer experience, but I've never coached before. So if you're looking for someone to assistant coach, I'll help you out. And that's how it started.
And we're
That's
so
awesome.
glad it did.
Yes. How did Xander take that? Was he super excited? And how did he feel about it when you said you would?
I think he liked it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was excited. I think it kind of caught him by surprise a little bit. And so in a good way. So no, I think he's excited about it. He still, as far as I know, still likes that I'm out there coaching with him. So yeah, very much a good thing.
How has it been coaching your own kid?
Very challenging. So it's hard to strike a balance sometimes. Where I mean he calls me Coach Dad on the field, but trying to strike that balance of, parent and coach. I'm not trying to give him all of the individual attention because he's my kid, and I'm not trying to coach him harder or easier than any of the other boys, trying to treat him the same. And so I do my absolute best to be as impartial as possible. So that's what I would say the greatest challenge is just being impartial and trying to treat him the same as all the other boys. But I feel like I do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has Xander ever said otherwise?
No, I've
Okay,
never gotten any
good.
comments from him
That's
about it
awesome.
otherwise. So
You're doing something right, Dad.
That's right.
Now that you're 3 years into Chaos 2013 and have been by Athena's side, what do you feel has changed the most about your coaching style since year one versus now?
So I'll just say this. I am the assistant coach for the team. So Athena and now Justin as well, they take the lead for a lot of things like the drills and everything with the boys. But in general, what I feel like is that a lot of the drills stay the same, the things that you practice, kicking, passing, corner kicks, all of those things. And so one thing that's changed with our boys is just we can do drills. Obviously, they're a little more advanced than when we first started because they're getting older and getting smarter about the game. And also, I feel like we can be more organized when it comes to the practices. You don't want to, you don't necessarily want to jump around. If you can do a drill where it's like, one drill is, passing focused and one is shooting focused. And then the last drill of the day is you incorporate both of those things, right?
Okay.
It's like we try to make it more, more organized and flow well throughout the practice. So I would say that's one thing that has improved as time has gone on.
Awesome. What has been one of the hardest things for you I know you're a coach, but you teach too, these boys. What's been one of the hardest things to teach them out of everything, whether it's drills or aggression or attitude or anything?
Communication. So you guys have probably heard Athena say this too, and it is very true. Our boys are great, and they are great. They are great friends, and we have a great culture and everything, and they talk a lot off the field. And the challenge has been to get them to talk more on the field. Some of the boys have really stepped up in that way and started to talk a lot more. Big shout out to Steven and Zach for that. And so, but really, it's an extremely important part of the game, and the boys are starting to get better at it, but definitely communication.
Yeah.
I like to point out we had training tonight with our boys, and I wanted to say that CJ was out there talking and communicating and just using his voice.
Oh,
It was really cool to see.
I've noticed that a little more and more. So thank you for telling me that. That's awesome.
Josh, so you said something about culture. What do you think because we talk about how great the culture is on our team. What do you think makes our culture so great, if that makes sense?
No, it's a good question. So it's a lot of things, like how do you define culture, right? So I would say there's a lot of pieces to it. One of the things that makes our culture great is the boys' work ethic. We have a lot of boys that work really hard, obviously during practices, but outside of practice as well, because they love the game. They're very passionate. They want to give it their all. Our boys support each other on and off the field, which is a big deal. So, and it's one of those things you can't teach, because you want boys to have, you want boys to support each other. You want them to have accountability, but do it in a way where it's not pointing the finger and making it like it's someone's fault. Like you need to have that level of communication. So respect, our boys have a high level of respect for each other and for the coaches, and that goes a really long ways. So it's really hard to coach and train someone that, is insubordinate and doesn't want to listen and thinks that they know it all. And so to have a team with that level of respect goes a really long way.
For someone that's trying to build a good culture for their own team, what's a piece of advice that you could give to them?
Praise effort and praise decision making. Don't praise results. So
I like that.
that's how you build a good culture. That's how you build confidence. And so I feel like those are the key points you want to hone in on.
It's really good.
Funny that you say that, though, because when we did interview all the boys, that was one of the things they said they hoped the coaches seen more of, not just their skill, but the effort that they were putting in and their attitude.
Yes.
So that's definitely being shown.
Coincides with that. Yeah, definitely.
So how can you, as a coach, help players build their confidence?
Going back to the last question, so praising effort and decisions is a good way to do it. Something else I would bring up make success achievable during practice, right? Don't set them up for failure and, do crazy drills and things that they can't do or they're not capable of. So praise decisions, not outcomes. So, reinforce like, oh, that was a good idea. That was a good try, right? Give clear, simple roles to the boys, right? Make sure that they understand what their role is, what their job is on the field. You don't want them out there being confused. And then I would say match challenge with ability. Don't put the kid who's struggling with dribbling in a one-on-one against your best defender over and over and over, right? You have to challenge the boys, but you have to do so in a way that they're not going to get, they're not going to get crushed or feel defeated the whole time that they're doing something. So, so match challenge with ability.
Back to kind of the practices and stuff, I was wondering if they're having just incredible practices over and over and it's not quite translating to games the same way. What can you do to help that or get better results, I guess you could say, if you want the win?
It is definitely something that we talk about on the sideline before games, talking about what we practiced beforehand, and emphasizing those points and explaining why we went over those things and why it's important for them to do it on the field. So, and we do that during the games. There are times, and maybe as parents, it may look confusing, but we'll pull boys off the field sometimes and we'll be like, wow, so-and-so's only been in for 3 minutes. What's going on? And a lot of the time it's because we need to talk to them. So it'll be like, hey, we practiced this or we're noticing that and, bring it to their attention. You don't want to scream it across the field during the middle of a game. So really it just comes down to communication from the coaches, reinforcing and encouraging the behavior and whatever it is that we have practiced or been practicing.
Well, as a parent to a child that does better with a verbal conversation, not being yelled at, I appreciate that. So, I think that most of us can understand why you guys are pulling kids off, at least majority of the time. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
So as a coach, what's a mistake that you have made that you have learned from?
This could apply to a couple different things, but what I will say is trying to coach too much, too often during a game. I don't want to be if I'm doing all of the thinking, then the boys aren't learning, right? So trying to strike that balance of coaching and pointing things out while not doing too much coaching, too much talking. And I bring that up too because we see this too from the sideline, from the parents sometimes, they're shouting out things and noticing things too. And that's what's hard for us is because, sometimes we're intentionally being quiet. So or not saying a lot because we want the boys to see things and figure things out for themselves and to learn.
So talk to us about your observations of parent sidelines. What are the biggest challenges that you see, or what advice would you give to parents who may be coaching from the sideline?
So what I would say is that sometimes I think parents see things on the sideline and it appears like maybe their child is not being successful or doing something the way that they want them to do it. And maybe it's in fact the opposite. It is something that we've been working on specifically. And I would say I've seen this more so with parents who don't have a soccer background, who maybe don't quite understand it, how everything works.
Abby's raising her hand.
Yes.
And things that may not look good or may not look like progress, like passing the ball backwards and stuff like that. Like there are certain things where I've seen people call things out, or things where the boys are being aggressive and it looks like there was a foul, but there actually wasn't, things like that. Not calling anybody out.
Guilty.
Offside.
Right.
Red card. No, Sabs, it's not a red card. Okay, thank you.
Right. So, but yeah, I would say just realizing that some things are intentional, and sometimes we're trying to teach the boys. We're trying to teach the boys a lesson. We're trying to teach them something during the game that's going to help them be more successful in the long run. And it just takes practice. You just have to do it in the game and let them mess up a little bit and let them figure it out.
Is it frustrating to you guys to hear that, or are you guys kind of used to it at this point?
I would say we're pretty used to it, and I feel like the boys listen to us. I'm don't get me wrong. I know that they hear the parents from the sidelines too, but I know that they've been going to the practices. They know that what we're trying to teach them, and I feel like they trust us and know what it is, we're trying to show them. So even if they do hear something from the sidelines, I don't know if they'll necessarily heed the advice.
So that's why they don't listen to us when we say stuff to them.
Coach is probably over there telling them, don't listen to your parents.
They just roll their eyes
Don't
at
blame
us
them.
instead.
Totally.
So talk about the physicality that we're seeing as the boys get older. What are you seeing and how do you feel about it?
So what I'm seeing is that the boys are becoming more physical. They are getting bigger, faster, stronger, and that is just going to continue to happen over the next several years.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be honest and say that I don't think some of the parents are going to be ready for it. It is going to be challenging, but I think our boys are up for the challenge. We've been trying to teach them the physicality and know what they can and can't do and what the limits are. And so all I can say for, those listening that haven't played or seen boys play at the higher level, it's gonna ramp up from here. It really is. So the game gets a lot faster, it gets a lot more physical. And so I'm looking forward to it. This is the level that I enjoyed playing at the most. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what our boys do with it.
So as a parent, sitting on the sidelines, there can be a lot of emotions when people get fouled or when they think their kid is being targeted. Any thoughts on that or advice?
It's really hard to give advice on something like that because I understand the emotions that come with it because it's a reality. When players, as a game goes on, as players recognize a threat, they treat them differently. They approach them differently. I'm not saying that they're going to intentionally hurt them, but I can tell you that as a player, as the game goes on, you learn very quickly who knows what they're doing, who's confident and who's not, and who's a threat, who's possibly going to score, and you treat them differently. And it usually, it can lead to more physicality. And so all I can say is that the best advice I can give for the players is to adapt and realize that if you see that from the players, you have to probably change your style a little bit. For example, sometimes when we scrimmage, if I play against the boys, some of the boys, I'm a foot taller than a lot of the boys. Some of the boys treat me the same as all of the other kids. They try all of the same moves. They try everything, and it's not as successful. And some of the boys, as soon as they see me, I can see them change their style. They adapt immediately. They stop the ball. They look for who's open. They, look for a different pass. I can see them adapting to their opponent. So that would be my advice as a player is make sure that your opponents are going to adapt to you. So make sure you adapt to them also, especially if you have a player that is being physical and, and the refs maybe not calling everything that they should be calling. It's something that you do have to work around on the field. And as a parent, I have no good advice. It's going to be rough. Some games are going to be rough, and some refs are going to be more on it than others. And so just try to buckle up and be prepared for those games. The last thing I'll say on this is, as a coach, we recognize and see some of this on the field too. And you've probably seen us on the field call out switches. Someone goes to the left, left and right side swap, things like that. So we try and see things like this as well and make changes, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So from your past experience playing in high school, recognizing that you can tell when someone is maybe more of a threat. So you mentioned you could change your play style, but as a player playing against someone who's, maybe a threat to you, were you typically just playing stronger and that could result in fouls, or was there intentionality sometimes in fouling? How does that come into the play as you get older? Does that make sense?
Yes. No, I mean, it's a good question. And so as a player, you have to try to quickly analyze what your opponent's strength is and then adapt. So for example, some players are faster in a straight line. Some players are really good ball handlers and can just dance with the ball. They're just, and so you have to adapt to the kind of opponent that you have accordingly. So for example, if I had an opponent that was really fast and knew he was going to try and kick the ball past me and sprint past me like what Luke does, I would play off of him more so that way I could potentially, catch him when he tries to take off.
Right.
And then someone like Reed, who is an excellent ball handler and has a lot of skill, he has a totally different play style than Luke does. So I would actually play closer to Reed because he does a lot of touches on the ball, and I would try to wait for him to make a mistake and try and jab the ball. And so this is me trying to adapt to my opponent. And so it just depends on what the opponent's strength is. Sometimes it can lead to me being more physical, like in the case of someone like Reed, where I'm going to be closer to them trying to get the ball, versus someone like Luke, I'm going to give him more space until he makes his move, and then I'm going to go in.
How do you correct and coach a player when you've told them over and over again, let's say, please pass the ball? Like, we were working on passing and they won't pass.
So it's a good question. It is very challenging, but really it is just constant reminder and reinforcement. You need to make them realize the value in what you're trying to teach them, because if they don't value it, if they don't respect you, they're never going to change. And so, a few different ways you can go about this, using real examples. You're doing scrimmages, you're doing drills, and they're not doing what you're trying to get them to do, and they're being unsuccessful. They're losing the ball, they're not making their shots, whatever it is. And so trying to use real life examples to help get through to them. Also, reinforcement through additional people. So having other coaches talk to them as well. And sometimes even players. So, making the player realize that, it is a team game and you have to work together to be successful. And sometimes players respond more from their own teammates, because if it gets to the point where the teammate, where their team or teammate resents them or doesn't want to pass with them or doesn't want to work with them, that is probably going to, cause a reaction and cause them to change.
Yeah. So. Okay. That's good. Now we saw that the team struggled this season. It was a tough season. What I kind of started noticing more as well is that those top players were even having more struggles with tricks or things that they used to do that were always successful, but now it's not nearly as successful as it used to be. Do you believe that that's just growing pains and getting older and going against tougher people, or how do you translate that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. This year was definitely full of challenges. I should say this season was full of challenges between injuries and everything. And so a couple of things. I feel like this season in particular was a combination of unfortunate injuries and playing against higher caliber teams.
Yeah.
So, it was something I was, I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point, but we went up against a MLS Next team. They was a year younger than us. We were a head taller than most of their players, and they beat us. They beat us pretty handily. They were very coordinated. They showed up that day and did a really good job. And so as you come across teams that are, better coached, more coordinated, the tricks, aren't going to work as much as consistently against teams like that are prepared to stop you, to slow you down. So, but even using that example, even having a size and speed advantage, it still wasn't enough because their teamwork was just great.
Yeah. Do you think teams like that are trained to kind of take out the higher playing players of the opposite team? Like, not necessarily take them out, but are they trained? Do you think teams like that are trained to notice the stronger players and kind of get on them faster and prevent those goals?
Yes, a team like that, yes, with the right coaching would absolutely know what to look out for. They would know who the threat would be, what the threat would be, and how to beat it, how to slow it down. Doing things like taking people on 2 versus 1, even just positioning your body in a certain way and forcing them to go a certain direction. I mean, there's all kinds of tricks out there and things you can do to throw off strategies like that. Yeah. So yes.
So I have a question. So kind of like what Sabrina was saying, we had a tough year. So how do you help the boys, I guess, and the parents, because it was hard for us to watch too, define success beyond the wins and the losses? Because we know, especially at their age, they are all about winning. So how do we help them see past that? Like, we were like, oh, it's a growing year. But how do we help the boys really understand that?
Yes. I mean, it's hard. obviously, especially at this age, winning and losing is a very big deal. And I mean, and it's good. You want players that are competitive. You want players that, that want to win, especially on a team like this. So what I would say is that, winning or losing really, it just gives you a snapshot. What's going on, how they're doing, what they did good that day. But really, success beyond that is, do they leave the season as a better athlete, as a better teammate, as a better person? So to me, that is how you truly define success.
I love that.
Me too. That's good.
So obviously this year there have been a lot of changes, and there will be a lot of changes going into the next season due to the age change. What challenges do you see as a result?
So I think there's going to be more changes than what people will realize. So for those that are not aware, so the age rules change from being year pure, going from January to December, to being it is August, right, through July, I believe. And so if your kid is staying on the same team, then inherently you're going to most likely be going against stronger opponents. So, for example, my son Xander is born in August. So right now, the players that are older than him by 9 months. So going through January. And now with this age change, and it sets the beginning of it to August, now the oldest players are going to be a year older than him, a whole year, which is a lot at this age. So, I mean, we have boys that are, we've seen boys that are a whole head taller than some of the other boys. So just from a physical standpoint, a development standpoint, it's going to be a really, really big change. So, again, kind of using this as an example, if you're a gold level team, I imagine a lot of the teams in our bracket are going to go age pure, like the Sacramento teams. And so even just staying in our bracket, you're still just inherently going to go against stronger teams because they're probably going to be age pure, and you're going to be going against players that are 5-6 months older than before. So there's a lot of challenges that come with that. And so I think it's a big decision to make sure that if your kid is staying on the same team and they're playing outside of their group, outside of their age, that you take that into account.
So how do you strike a balance between development and competitiveness?
During practice, you're definitely honing in on the development, what we need to work on as a team, what we need to improve on. And then the competitive side comes from, fighting for that starting position. Are you stepping up in those ways to be competitive, to take on a starting role on your team? So, from a coaching standpoint, you're always striking that balance of pushing the boys because you want them to learn, to grow, to be better, but not pushing too hard. You still want them to have fun and enjoy the game. So I would say that's where you strike the balance. Make the practice as constructive as possible and use that as incentive to the boys to say, hey, if you're showing up, you'll get a starting position.
So seeing as our club is it's big, but it's small compared to others, do you think us as a whole club might struggle against these teams that are transitioning to this age pure?
That is a good question. So I think it's really going to depend on the team and depend on the coaches. There are some teams that we have that play at premier level. There's some teams who have that play at bronze level. And so I think that this is going to be a big challenge for the coaches to really sit back and think of what level your team is at. Like we talked about, you want to challenge the boys, but at the same time, you don't want to throw a bronze team in at the premier level. You need to find where that tipping point is, where it's like it's just the right level for your team. You don't want them stomping all the other teams, but you don't want your team losing to all the games either. So finding as a coach where your team belongs in that, I think that's going to be one of the challenges with this age change.
The club as a whole, what do you think they could do better to prepare all the teams and kind of make all the teams more around the same level instead of having premier? Yes, I know that comes with some experience and we are a smaller club, but what would be a suggestion you would have to bring everyone more up to speed?
So from a club standpoint, just making sure that teams and coaches have resources, have what they need. I know that the club, for example, hosted some training courses, so that way coaches could get their licenses, like their B license and stuff. And that's a big deal. That's great. Not having to travel and having that convenience is a huge deal. So yeah, so the club providing resources and the coaches engaging in those resources, I think, are the best way to raise the level of the club as a whole. And then I guess I would say also for coaches to be open-minded and adaptable. I think we have all, dealt with coaches in our lives where, they feel like it's very much their way or the highway, and they're not adaptable, they're not with the times. And so having, as a coach, being adaptable and, growing with the times and doing what you need to do for your team to be successful and not just following a strict regiment because you think it's the best, I think is important.
So going into this new season coming up, what do you think are some goals that you guys will set for the team?
So I don't want to sound cliche, but things like, really continued increasing player development, increasing their game understanding, maintaining team culture. So those are all, again, sounds cliche. And so, but it's also the biggest challenge of coaching. So, for example, I never played on a competitive travel team growing up. So one of the things that I try to make sure is that if I'm providing constructive criticism, that it's really beneficial to the boys, that, I'm making sure that I'm staying at the same level or higher level than them from a coaching standpoint. I can't let the boys, outpace me from that standpoint. Otherwise, they're not going to learn anything. So that is definitely a goal, is to make sure that the boys are just continuing to develop in those ways. So that way they just keep getting better.
Right.
How do you provide feedback, and how is that received by players?
So it's a good question. Each player responds differently, of course, goes without saying. So the best way to provide feedback is to be direct, but call it, firm but fair, right? So you have to be direct. You don't want to dance around the topic or issue. You need to be as direct as you can be, but make it constructive. So, don't attack their character. Don't attack their identity. Just be as straight up as you can. And again, like we talked about before, sometimes using real life examples or things that they have not been successful in to help them understand what it is you're trying to teach them, and that you're there to help coach them and help make them better. You're not there just, picking on them, calling out all their mistakes.
So what has been the most rewarding part of being a coach?
For me, really spending time with my son has been really rewarding. So, I knew, obviously it's a really big perk to it. And so spending time with my son, but also I'm one of those people where I really get enjoyment out of educating people. So in this case, educating young men. So it's fulfilling to me, and seeing these boys grow, not only as soccer players, but as people, as young men.
So how long till they're schooling you?
Not very long. We had our end of the year scrimmage, and we were joking, saying that we've got, maybe this year and next year we can, be a challenge to them. But after that, it's downhill from there.
Game over.
Yes. Yes.
It was never game on for me. So.
You tried.
I tried. I really did.
So how do you think the boys would describe you as a coach?
It's hard.
You can't use cyborg.
I know.
I think we can use that one.
We can.
Yeah. Encouraging, fair, fast. So
There we go. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's some examples of how they would describe me.
Is there anything that you want to work on as a coach?
I would say just being more communicative myself. I feel like, like I mentioned before, Justin and Athena really, really step up and do a great job putting our practices together and, setting everything up so it flows properly. And so I find that they definitely talk more than I do on the field. And so I need to just, not be afraid and just, be more communicative, more, provide more constructive criticism. And so because I can't tell the boys too that they need to work on their communication if I'm not communicating with them.
Okay, I like that. Accountability.
Yes.
All right. So we are going to move on to our rapid fire segment. So Josh, I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions. You're just going to answer with your first thought. All right. So first question is, who's your favorite soccer team?
Barcelona.
All right. Favorite soccer player of all time?
Ronaldinho.
Okay.
What is your favorite sports movie?
Talladega Nights.
Yes.
No, I would say Moneyball is a really good one. Rush, car movie. Ford versus Ferrari. So
Does
yeah,
that count as a sport?
sure. Racing is totally a sport.
I don't
This one's a
know.
good one. What's your favorite pregame meal?
So I would say like eggs, maybe yogurt and granola.
Not talkies.
Not Takis.
Oh,
No, your
darn.
son
it.
takes that for sure.
All right. Coffee or energy drinks?
Definitely energy drinks.
If you could coach alongside any coach in history, who would it be?
The one that comes to mind, it's kind of random, is Phil Jackson. He was the coach for the Bulls for Michael Jordan. So
Nice.
yeah.
What's your go-to music before a game? What gets you hyped up?
Definitely rock music.
Are
So
we
I'm
talking
a
this pirate rock stuff you've been listening
pirate
to?
rock. Hey. Don't be dissing my pirate rock.
What is
all right?
pirate rock?
It is exactly what it sounds like.
Oh,
No.
wow.
We will add it right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to link it. in the
Link
show
it
notes.
and give you a little
Is it like
snippet.
arg? Like what kind?
That's what I was thinking, like Captain Crunch.
Sorry.
What's the funniest thing you've seen happen during a game or practice?
So we had a game where we had a referee. We had a gentleman who was a older, heavier set gentleman, and he may have had a long white beard. So, I kind of leaned in over to Athena, whisper a little bit like, does this guy look like Santa Claus? And, started cracking some like Santa Claus jokes like, how's this guy going to keep up with our boys? He's going to need a sleigh, all of this stuff. And so anyways, finish our warm up, the boys line up, the refs start checking us in, and they pull out all of the boys' game cards and they start listing all of their names. And so they go through, read all the names, and there's one of the boys that they can't find. And the ref looks at us and goes, hey, I can't find so and so on this
The
list. And Justin goes, oh, you better check it twice. And
Oh my
I had to turn my face away. And
Did he catch on?
he didn't say anything. I just turned around and Athena turned around and we're just looking at each other. And so
Oh, that's so good.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, did the boys catch on?
a couple of them cracked
Okay.
up. Yes, they definitely heard him.
I
So,
feel like CJ was like, was that a good game or a not so good game that we
I think
lost?
we ended up losing the game.
Okay, because I thought I remember an angry Santa joke from CJ, and I was like, huh? And then I put two and two together.
Right.
So
Oh my gosh, that's good.
Yes.
that is so good.
So, Josh, are you an early bird or a night owl?
I am a night owl.
Okay.
What is your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Laziness. Players that just every opportunity to get the ball or just, put in just one more step or one more something and just, laziness just drives me crazy.
Do you have a most memorable win?
I'll talk about two really fast. So for me, it was the year that for my high school team, we won the division championship. And then for the boys, I don't know if you guys remember this. This was last year. It was during a tournament. There was a team that had like a secret weapon. They had a player that was really good, and he was a good player. And the first game we played them in the tournament, they refused to play him the whole game except for the last 2 minutes of the game. So we beat the team. We were up, I think it was like 8-0. It was not even close. And then they brought in their secret weapon, and in 2 minutes he scored 2 goals. So he was quite good. And then we played them later on in the finals, and they actually played him the whole time, and we still beat them pretty handily. I think we beat them by like 3 or 4 points.
Okay.
And so for me, that was super memorable because you knew that they were going to play him the whole time, and you were, you just didn't know going into it.
Don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I kind of remember something about Secret Weapon vaguely.
Yeah.
All right, Josh, what's the toughest loss you've learned from?
So the one that comes to mind to me is the recent one against that pre-MLS team that we were a year older than. It really showed me what the next level looks like or can look like. And so it was great because those are the games you learn from the most. But, we went into it knowing what level they were, but going, okay, it might balance out because of the size difference. And they were on their A game that day. They did exceptional. And so it was a tough loss, but I feel like we learned a lot from that game.
What's one word that describes your team this season?
I would just say fun. The boys are a lot of fun during practice. They're fun when we travel. So that's the word that comes to mind to me for our boys and for our team.
Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was really cool. I'm excited that we finally got to interview and actually get inside of your head because we don't always hear a lot from you. But that was really interesting to find everything out about you and about coaching.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, sweetie.
Sweetheart.
All right, ladies, shall we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so until next time.
See you on the sidelines.
That wasn't corny.
I agree.
It was not corny.
It's cute.
It's so cute.